this is Konganaya outside of Demico, the western pavement of Demico, and they are of course performing some cultural shoots Saturday morning.
one, politics in the wider Caribbean. Here at home, in Guyana, we have our own issues that we are grappling with. So please, please share the link and let others know that Politics 101 is on the air. Last night we had the bad boys, as the PPP call us, Ben Sharp, Duncan, Amsterdam, and Burke on last night, and we had quite a conversation. And we're going to do that from time to time, where we bring those who are behind the mic, bring them in front of the mic for us to have a discussion among ourselves. Good evening to everybody. Good evening. The Christmas season came and went, and New Year's came, and we're off with a bang. Good night to you, Albert Morgan from number 51 here in the quarantine. Good night to you, Paula. Good night to you, Sheila Collis Walk. Karen, welcome. Good night, all of you, and welcome down to Politics 101. Tonight, as we come on here, we are seeing some news headlines over the last couple of hours. President Ali tells Guyanese not to panic as the country records its highest number of COVID cases in a short period of time. And the president is saying to the Guyanese public that they should not panic. We recorded some high numbers over the last 3 days. The last count says that it's almost close to 1,000 new cases of COVID-19 over the last 3 days, and the president is telling the population not to panic. Now we're having all of this as schools reopen on Monday, and then looking at Village Voice News here that says 65 teachers, 44 students hit with COVID. And this is in the first 3 days of the reopening of schools. And there's a new item here. The CEO of the Ministry of Education calls Christchurch students waste and tell them to hell with COVID. Breaking news. We've seen here that the GNBS rejects large quantities of substandard goods that are coming into the country. On the party side, Geeta Chandan Edmond appointed new PNCR General Secretary. And those are the breaking news in the last couple of hours. We are going to be talking about some of those issues in the news. So we are back to COVID-19. After a lull for a couple of months, we're back to the issue of COVID-19. And we had, in the August leading up to school opening in September, we had the issue of the vaccine and the government trying to force people to take the vaccine. And that was toned down. And now as we come to the new year and the government says that they're reopening the schools for the students to go back face to face. Accompanying that is this news of a massive spike in the COVID-19. Now, I have said, and I continue to say before, that natural disasters, floods, COVID-19, these are not issues that should be politicized in a partisan way. You can have a rise in COVID-19 under any government because it can be triggered by circumstances beyond a government. And I don't like to place those things at the feet of governments. Same thing with floods or hurricanes. I think those things should be left outside of partisan politics, because those things are natural disasters. But we live in a very hyper-politicized society in which political parties politicize everything. If, for some reason, the COVID-19 pandemic and the numbers of people being infected and the fatalities go down, the PPP would take credit for it. That is the reality of the issue. So although one may say that one should not politicize COVID-19, the fact of the matter is that if the government of the day, or if the COVID-19 situation were to improve, the government of the day will take credit for it. National issue that should be overseen in a bipartisan way. They have not included the parliamentary opposition. They have not included civil society in the management of the pandemic. And so therefore, like everything else, the PPP government is monopolizing it. The PPP operates on the philosophy that in a majoritarian system, once you have the majority, never mind how slim that majority is, never mind how tenuous the situation is, the PPP monopolizes all the space. And if you monopolize all the space and you leave civil society out, you leave the political opposition out, then whatever goes wrong in that space, by your very logic, you have to take responsibility for it. And so as we see this spike in the pandemic, we have to put it at the doorstep of the PPP. Not because we want to place it there, but because the PPP, by its very mode of governance, is saying that we are large and in charge. And if you are large and in charge, then you have to be in charge of all disasters that are occurring under your watch. So here we are. Just in COVID-19. We have to say that there's something about the management of this pandemic that has gone wrong. We know that this pandemic is deadly. We know that the scientists, the experts have told us about all the things that need to be done in order to bring the pandemic under control. The question is whether the PPP government has heeded the advice from the experts or not. The children are back in school, face to face. Face to face. They're back. And as I said, we have seen the numbers here, 65 teachers, 44 students hit with COVID, and this is the first couple of days back in school. The question is, should the children, should they be back in school in a situation in which the government seems not to have any comprehensive plan of how to deal with the COVID-19, how to deal with what we have been told will be a new surge. Well, I can tell you as a teacher, it is better to have students in the classroom where you're dealing with them face to face, where you're able to teach in a holistic way, where you're not teaching to blank screens, you're not certain whether the children are there or not. There are challenges with distance teaching. Even before the pandemic, we have had online teaching, and there are challenges with online teaching. I can tell you that as a teacher. There are challenges in teaching virtually. So it is better to be in the classroom. But in the context of a pandemic, and in the context of a situation where the government has refused to bring the teachers' union in to a partnership to deal with this pandemic, it is a risk, always a risk, having children back in the classroom and having teachers there. Our society, our country is split on vaccination. Some teachers have gone ahead and taken their vaccines. Other teachers, like other members of the wider society, are skeptical about vaccine and have not done it. Now, that's a whole new conversation that we have gone over. The fact of the matter is that we have a country that is split like all countries. Opinion on the vaccination is split. So that's a big challenge there. The government not bringing in the unions, not bringing in civil society organizations, not bringing in the opposition into management of the thing, that's a problem there. We are a small third world country, as they say, and we don't have the kind of inbuilt health infrastructure and that's a problem. So we have several problems as we deal with this pandemic. We just had a new strain, and we are hearing about a newer strain in the last 48 hours or so. So as a society, we are not equipped to deal with the tremendous public health challenges that come with COVID-19. And if you want to err on the side of caution. As I said, it is better to teach face to face. I say that as a teacher. But in the context of a pandemic, err on the side of caution. Because you're talking about lives, people's health. And yes, it is better to teach face to face. But if teaching face to face puts the teachers, the students at risk, on the side of caution. The side of caution. Our government has apparently decided to err on the side of arrogance. And if this news story in the Village Voice is correct, then that arrogance, my charge that they've decided to err on the side of arrogance is justified. The Village Voice story I want to read for you. The headline, CEO allegedly calls Christchurch teachers waste, says to hell with COVID. Chief Election Officer Marcel Hudson is reported to have told the teachers of the Christchurch Secondary School that they are waste, and he downplayed their fear about the surge in the COVID-19 pandemic. In a press release on Wednesday, Guyana Teachers Union said it was informed by staff and students of Christchurch Secondary School of the unacceptable behavior at the school by the Chief Education Officer, Dr. Marcel Hudson. The report stated that the Chief Election Officer screamed at teachers, saying, quote, "To hell with COVID. Teachers at the school are waste." This is what the Guyana Teachers Union release is saying. The union wishes to ascertain whether the abusive words uttered by the CEO are the ministry's position on teachers who are out amidst the COVID-19 pandemic, doing their best under these circumstances. The GTU condemns the abusive behavior in the most robust possible way, and urges the CEO to return immediately to the school and publicly apologize to the staff and students who bore witness to his unacceptable rantings yesterday. We expect an officer of Dr. Hudson's status to treat teachers better, since he's a product of the school system and ought to better. Further, we demand that the school be closed immediately to facilitate testing and sanitizing its environment. The CEO's instruction to have the school remain open breaches his own COVID-19 protocol issued in 2021. That is the news story from the Village Voice. So it seems as if in the first couple of days of school, schools around the country, Christchurch is one, they are reporting cases of COVID-19 infection. And they may have called in the Chief Elections Officer. And he's telling them to hell with COVID. and that the teachers are a waste. Now, the news story is reporting what the union says. One would imagine that in this day and age, the union would have had a recording of the CEO statements. You know these things? People have their cell phones, they're going to record these things. So if the union is going to take that position and make it public, the union must have in its possession a recording of some sort of what the CEO said. Now, the CEO is not a political person or should not be a political person. And the union is correctly asking, is the CEO's position the position of the ministry and by extension the government? We don't know. We weren't there. We have not heard a recording. I want to make that clear. We are going on what the union has told the media. If what the union is saying is true, it's outrageous. It is outrageous, and it needs to be corrected. If what the union is saying is true, it needs to be corrected. First of all, to call teachers waste is really outrageous. The kind of sacrifices teachers make all the time to hold our education system together. I know teachers who have to, I don't have to tell you all the story. Teachers have to find their own tools to take to school, spend their own money, meager wages. And in the case of the pandemic, working in a risky situation, and you're calling them waste? But it speaks to the level that we have descended to in Guyana. And then more than that, you're saying to hell with COVID. So COVID doesn't matter. This is the same ministry that was fighting teachers to take vaccine in order to ensure that everybody is safe. So I am pro-vaccine. So I am not opposed to ministries and governments asking people in a public situation to be vaccinated. However, you can't want to talk on both sides of your mouth. You can't want, when it suits you, say COVID matters. When you want to tell teachers take the vaccine, you say COVID matters. When teachers are saying this is a risky situation, we should not be here, you tell them to hell with COVID, it doesn't matter. See, this is the kind of totalitarian environment that we live in, where the government wants it both ways. COVID does matter. But it must always matter. It mustn't matter when you think it matters. The teachers are saying COVID matters. There is a rise in the cases, a steep rise. And you are now telling them it doesn't matter. Double standards. And this is the kind of governance that starts at the top of the politicians, and it seems to be now trickling down to public servants, in those who are in high position in the public service. I repeat, I have not heard or seen a video where the CEO is making this statement. I'm going by what the ministry said. And I'm saying that if the ministry goes out there and accuses the CEO of making these statements, I would assume that they have the evidence. If they don't, and they make such a statement that was not made by the CEO, then the teachers union should apologize to him. But I don't think the teachers union is so irresponsible that it will make a charge against the CEO when it's not true and they don't have the evidence. That is what we have come to in this country. So I want to stand this program, Politics 101, standing on the side of the teachers. Teachers should not put themselves at risk, at further risk, and put the students at risk. And we know the spreading. Those teachers have to go home to their families. Those students have to go home to their families. They may have people there who are more at risk because of preconditions. At a minimum, I joined the union in saying that the schools where we are seeing a rise in case of COVID-19 should be closed immediately. No ifs and buts about it. That's how you deal with a crisis. You don't say to hell with it. You take emergency measures. And if Christ Church is a secondary school is a mess, close it down. And all schools where you're seeing these numbers, 65 teachers in a small country like ours, in a small teaching population, 65 teachers is quite a lot. Quite a lot. Quite a lot. So I would like to join. I would like to join in support of the teachers union to close down Christ Church School and all other schools. And that the CEO, if he made those statements, should clarify and should apologize not just to teachers and staff, but to the country. Because he holds a position of authority. Sisters and brothers, as I said, this kind of behavior starts at the top among the politicians and it seeps down to the bottom. We're going to be taking some calls tonight and I would like to hear your views on this matter. This is 2022 and there shall be no retreat. No retreat. As you would have heard on the program last night, the brothers have different views on this issue of people taking what is being dished out to them and not responding. It's a worrying issue, a worrying question. In other countries, less than this, bring people out in protest. And I understand that people feel let down by a society, a population that appears to be numb to what the PPP is doing. I have a slightly nuanced view, as I said. I think protest and resistance is something that is much more complex and much more nuanced. I think our society isn't protest. Our society is resisting. Then people are not on the streets. They don't have placards, but I am certain that they're resisting. I'm certain that people are doing things. Resistance comes in many ways. There are scores of ways to resist. And I'm sure people are resisting in their own ways. But sometimes, we political people tend to be impatient. We want the revolution to happen now. We want everything to happen right away. But my experience teaches me that things are always percolating. And it is that thing that triggers something. And then people take to the streets or whatever else they do. And then we say, but where they were all the time? No, they were resisting quietly all the time. So I am not put off because we don't see these overt forms of protest today, tomorrow. The fact that somebody reported to the union what Mr. Hudson says, that is resistance, that's protest. That's resistance, that's protest. The teachers there could have heard Mr. Hudson said that and just said, shrug their shoulder and go home. But no, they had the presence of mind to report it to the union. That's resistance. Remember, with the George Floyd thing, it was one little 17-year-old girl with a cell phone that took that picture. And that then triggered people to come onto the streets all across the world. So I am not that pessimistic, and I want to urge people, let's work, let's keep working. The government went to the extent of issuing a warrant, an order for Rickford Burke. If Rickford Burke was not igniting protests and resistance among the population, they would just say, leave him alone, let the jackass bray, as Eric Williams used to say. But no, the PPP knows that the Rickford Burkes of this world are making it difficult for them. They would like to close us down because they know about the effects of protest and resistance. And so let not our hearts be troubled. Let our hearts be troubled. Let us not feel that we have to see people in their thousands out in the streets before we are convinced that they're engaged in resistance. 2 morning more, as I said last night. 2 morning more. What people said, 2 morning more by 2 morning more. We have to continue to work on all fronts. We have to continue to work on all fronts. On the front of education, information sharing, analysis sharing, mobilizing, we have to work on all fronts. And it will come together. It will come together. Human beings are not robots. We have to believe that human beings are rational. And if we believe that human beings are rational, then we must believe that they understand what's happening and that in the fullness of time, hopefully not too far away from now, people will manifest the quiet resistance that is happening behind the scenes. So I just wanted to make that point there. I want to talk on another issue, the issue of Brother James Bond, and the video with him welcoming his friends into his community and distributing resources, and I think him holding an umbrella and so on. I was on BUXTONIAN morning time yesterday morning, and I don't know if James listened to what I said, but I understand whatever was reported to him, he seems to think I am one of those who, and I didn't do so, and I'm not about to do so. I'm saying that the issue that is presented by what James did is a very complex issue. And I think it is not about James Bond or anybody. I can tell you, as I said, on that program, I am approached constantly by people of all ethnic groups, business people and others, to give assistance to my village, Buxton. And I understand the sensitivity of it in a heightened racial environment. The optics of business people of one ethnic group sharing things out to people in the other ethnic group is bound to get a reaction. I'm surprised that James is surprised that there was a reaction to it. I'm surprised because I know James is much more politically intelligent than that. It is not the act. It is the act within the context of what's going on in the country. And I am telling you, if I were in James' position and then, you know, in Guyanese brother, business person approached me to give some assistance to the village, I would say, brother, we have to do this thing differently because of the political environment. I'm not rejecting your offer, but we have to do it a little bit differently than for you to come in there and appear to be giving people things and so on. It is bound to have a reaction. I would not have chosen that path, and that's what I said. I'm not condemning James. I'm just saying that I'm surprised that Brother James is surprised that there is a reaction. It means that he's not paying sufficient attention to not just the immediate thing, but the larger. In fact, people sometimes get, I know, impatient with me, with supporters, because sometimes I talk too much about the big picture. But if you don't understand the big picture, you could get the small picture wrong. It might be better for James to say, look, boy, give me these answers. And then let me and the people them in Melanie, let's call a party for children and let's distribute the hampers. Nobody has to know where the hampers come from. You say, well, there were donations from well-wishers of the village. But the minute you let in an Indian businessman, then you are provoking the underlying, coming just after what Ramson said. So the problem is not James Bond. The problem is the political environment that makes it difficult for some businessman of another ethnic group to come in and sharing things to Black people. It ignites. You have to understand these societies that we live in. I remember when the PPP decided to make Mr. Jagan the presidential candidate. I knew right away, I think I was on a radio program, and I said it aloud. I said, oh my God. Because I knew that it would ignite a response on the part of Black African Guyanese. Because it's what you call historical memory. Certain actions triggers memory. But Marley said, every time I hear the crack of the whip, my blood runs cold. You see, if you don't understand the psyche of the people, you are surprised that you get the response. No, absolutely nothing is wrong in a businessman going into a community and distributing things. Nothing is wrong with that. Under normal circumstances, that would cause no problem and should cause no problem. But in our situation, given the nature of our politics, it becomes a problem. And we can't wish it away. Which is what I think Brother James seems to be surprised. It's there. When people say, it's what? It's there because we live in racialized society, in a racialized society. And that is why these things have to be handled differently. You see, we cannot ignore the nature of our society, and as political people, we must understand the nature of our society. Because it will then inform how we move and how we act. And I think that's where the debate has come with what Brother James, you know, has done. You know, you have a government already treating half this population, Black people, as though they're second-class citizens. That government is grounded in the Indian Guyanese community. That government has over the last year pushed Black people to feel that they are being shoved right back to the plantation. That's the reality. That's the reality. And then now you have an Indian businessman coming into the community and sharing out things. People are not wondering whether that Indian businessman is PNC or PPP. What they're seeing is the optics. And as I pointed out yesterday, you are not seeing Black business people going into Indian communities and sharing out hampers. You are not going to see that. You are not going to see that. The Indian ethnic instinct would not allow that. And that is why you don't see it. You know, it's the truth. You know, I told an Indian brother who when I made the call for Black people to shop in their communities, he said, but David, Indian people, you don't find Indian leaders saying that. I said, because they don't have to say it. They've conditioned their community to shop in their community. Nobody has to tell them that. But because of the nature of the Black communities, we have to tell Black people that. It would have been better for me not to have to tell Black people to do it. But given the circumstances, you have to tell Black people to do it. Indian communities don't have to deal with Black or Amerindian businessmen going and share things in their community. It just wouldn't happen. It just wouldn't happen. And it's not the question of hampers. God knows people need the things that are in the hampers. So the question is not the hampers, it's what the hampers signify. That's where the issue, and I think Brother James should grapple some more with that. It's not the hamper, he's right. Or that politicians must give things to people. It's called clientelistic politics. And usually politicians would give things to people in exchange for votes. They used to call it in the old days roti politics or sardine politics. And we have to be very careful with that. Sometimes it's better to do things in a certain way. In my village, we do a big to Buxton in station times. And we get donation that people in the village, out of the village, some of them not Africanese. But they will tell you plain they don't want them to be thing. And so it is the manner in you give resources to a community. People have given us boats for farmers in our community. So I am not opposed to business who are helpful.
Conniving morning, then you had your pocket full. In a bill, tell me morning. Now because your money done, you hustle for tell me morning. Yes, morning, neighbor. Morning, neighbor, morning. Morning, neighbor, morning. Morning, I don't want you conniving morning. Neighbor, neighbor, joker. Neighbor, neighbor, joker. Neighbor, neighbor, joker. That's all the money that me walk for. A 2 pound note and a guild piece. A 2 pound note and a guild piece. A 2 pound note and a guild piece. This is all the money that me walk for. I said money neighbor, money neighbor, money, money neighbor, money, money. I don't want you conniving money. Oh Joseph for me.
me back, I'm in my country. Carry me back home. Sound like I got a frog in my throat. Hey, morning, y'all, morning. Welcome to another program of BUXTONIAN Morning Time. Yes, I'm okay. I'm okay. I'm getting there. I'm feeling much better. Of course, you know, a sore throat doesn't just leave as it comes. Old people got a way of saying sickness does come on airplane. Sickness does come on airplane, but you go up and snail back. Any of you ever heard that? Sickness comes on airplane, but goes on snail's back. It comes quickly. Sometimes you don't even recognize it. And then when it is there, it takes forever to go any place. And so that's a challenge. And each of us, I'm sure, would have experienced that challenge sometime or other. We can try to speed up the process. But some things are just the way they are. I'm doing all that I've been advised to do. I'm doing all that I think is best to do. And so I can tell you I'm feeling better physically. Less headaches. Less body pain. But the throat, and you know, the throat right now is the tool of work. I speak a whole lot. Throughout my life, my throat, my voice has been my tool. As a teacher, chalk and talk, if you want to say that. Excuse me. So I always have to express myself. But the reality is, you do what you have to do within the confines of what you can do. Right? But let's talk this morning. I woke up this morning. I'm a person, I tell people I don't generally put plans on paper. But I usually make mental notes. And I've been thinking, I always think a whole lot about what I do and why I do it. And what can stop me from doing it. And what can encourage me to do it even better. Right? And so even while I try to rest a whole lot for the past couple of days, because of this health situation, I've been thinking a lot. And the question came to me this morning, sometime in the wee hours. Best thinking hours for me are in the wee hours of the morning, quiet time. Why activism? Why activism? You've been in activism for the last, 32 years or something, perhaps. More than 3 decades. Why activism? Why you hold on to this activist lifestyle? And the simple answer is it's the simple answer is there are people there who need representation. There are people there who don't have a voice because nobody listens to them. Nobody considers to them. And they say injustice anywhere is injustice everywhere. And so long as there is injustice, somebody needs to speak on behalf of those who are being treated unjustly. And so I will, in my next life, choose activism again. Because I think it is important that those of us who believe that we have a voice, who have the listening ear of somebody or the other, it is important that we use our voices to highlight the plights of others, and so that their issues can be addressed and their lives changed. And so I will forever choose activism. A lot of people refer to me as a politician, but excuse me, the other morning I referred to Dr. Hines as a politician, and I smiled at his response. I know I felt it. He was more embarrassed than angry, because the reality is he expected me to know better. He never told me anything after the program, but I reflected and I knew that, right? Because we came from a school of thought. Um, Dr. Hines has had an influence in my life as a teacher, as a community activist, as a political body, and all of that. But all of us were influenced in some way, shape, or form by people like UC Kwayano, Moses Bagwan, Rupert Marine, Josh Ramsamy, right? All Bonita Harris, and Karen D'Souza, all WPA activists. If you were to check historically, I don't think any of those people I mentioned ever referred to themselves as politicians or saw themselves as politicians. They always saw themselves as activists, interested in the well-being of the people. Working People's Alliance. They have always been on the side of the working people, always on the side of the oppressed and the oppressed, right? And like I say, I would choose it again. If I'm to choose ever again, I will choose it time and time again, because that is really where my heart is, representing the interest of the people. Why am I telling you this? Because when I reflect, for the last 18 months or so, I've really knocked heads with a lot of people. And a lot of people are of the opinion that me knocking heads, throwing belly punches and so on, is personal. And nothing personal about what I do. And nothing personal. They say all politics is local. It might be local to my community, my Afro-Guyanese community. It might be local to my Guyanese community, because each and every one of us need a fair day, a just day in this land. But person to person, it's really not personal. Let me tell you that. I deal with my personal issues on a different level. People know me. And I dare say, not a lot of people know me. But people who know me will know that I can be a very, very personal person, very private, that is. I don't discuss a lot of my personal business, right? There are few people who will know my personal stuff, because I deal with my personal issues on a different level. But when it comes to activism, I don't believe in silence. I don't believe in sitting at a table and handle certain situations in a hush-hush manner. I believe in openness, open and frank discussion. The people with concerns must be aware of what is happening. And so I come this morning with the intention of continuing to address not James Bond, but the situation which currently exists in Melanie. Right? Because I think a lot is brewing in Melanie that residents of Melanie themselves are not aware of, or perhaps have not thought out. And down the line, they all will wake up to realize that somebody made a mess of their livelihood and their assets. Somebody. And I usually say, they say a stitch in time saves 9. And if I can contribute towards awakening, or an awakening among the residents of Melanie to pay more attention to what is happening and prevent future distress, then I would have fulfilled part of my role as an activist. I mean, like all of you knew, I really didn't comment on James and the hamper story. Loosely, let me say that. I examined the implications. And today I'm going to continue to examine those implications. Right? But let me start by saying, congratulations, James Bond. You have done what a lot of quote unquote seasoned politicians have not been able to do. You've been able to get the Mohammeds to dedicate a lot of resources to Melanie, the residents of Melanie Damishano, named after or for, whichever people like to say, the daughter of Forbes Burnham, the founder leader of the PNC, arch rival of the PPP, right? A PPP enclave, a PNC enclave, a PNC stronghold. Good? You've been able to do that. But you were not able to do it when your government was in office. As in the PNC. You weren't able to do it when the PNC/APNU was in office. Despite the Mohammeds, your good friends, you have not been able to convince them. You were not able to convince them at that time, as far as I know, to dedicate their resources to the development of a black community supportive of the PNC. Melanie Damishano by name. But when the government changed, and let me say this, had they done that during the time of the APNU in office, one would have seen it as a genuine effort at ingratiating themselves to the government. Politics, right? One would have seen it as a genuine effort of the Mohammeds want favors from the PPP, from the APNU, and so they're doing things to black people in black communities, right? That is usually seen as acceptable political behavior, right? So had you been able to really get them to do that while the APNU was in office, it would have been a feather in your cap. Good? A big, tall, colorful feather in your cap. But as a matter of fact, if I remember clearly, those were some of the people who contributed to the hardships of the APNU government. Because they're big money traders and so on, gold traders and so on. And go back and check, and you'll see all the artificial shortages created. Artificial shortages of foreign exchange and so on, and hoarding of money and gold and so on, that happened under the AP and UFC coalition to make it difficult for them to manage financially and otherwise. Go and check and see if the Mohammeds were a source of that problem. But you were close to government then, you weren't able to convince them, hey, get this government an easy time. Come, let's shake hands and bring you in. No. But congratulations to you. When the PPP is in government, when your government, assumingly so, your government is out of office, you've been able to achieve this grand feat. The Mohammeds have suddenly awakened and believe and recognize, hey, there are some people in Melanie that need some help. Let us help them. Right? James Bond is a good friend of ours. Let us work with James Bond to bring assistance to the Melanie community. Now, knowing the relationship between the Mohammeds and the PPP, that's public knowledge. That's public knowledge. But in case you don't remember, let me just draw quickly to your memory that the Mohammeds provided security details for the fat guy while he was campaigning, and shortly after he became president. Mr. Kisun, good morning.
Good morning, Kadaki. How are you doing?
I'm okay. How may I help? I'm live.
Oh, but I hear you mean we can get to no signal. We get to no nothing.
Well, just look for the CAMS page and find it there because I'm live.
All right.
Good. Facebook Live CAMS. Yes. Provided security detail in armored vehicle, perhaps, and so on and so forth for the fat guy. They were handed a couple $100 million in contract not so long ago, just after or around the same time with its jams statement construction, right? They have the ears, they have the ins and outs with the PPP government, right? And so when you look at the relationship between the Mohammeds and the PPP, and the fact that they suddenly woke up, or James was suddenly able to get them to go into Melanie, a black community, predominantly supportive of the PNC, APNU, and invest, notice I'm saying invest now, large sums of money. One has to ask, what they call it, quid pro quo? What's in it for them? Let me just ask that. Right? Let me just ask that. What is in it for them? Well, I want to address the what is in it for them. You see, a lot of people believe the hampers was the beginning and end of it all. No? The hamper was not the beginning and end of it all. The hamper was just the beginning. You remember the story of Troy? That gift horse, they say don't look a gift horse in the mouth, but I believe if they had looked the gift horse in the mouth, then they would have realized that there were people in the wooden horse, and they would have saved themselves. But in Melanie, they didn't look the gift horse in the mouth. They saw it as, them Mohammeds feeling generous, right? The Mohammeds are feeling generous, and so they brought things to give us. The gifting of the emperors was just to gain the goodwill of the community. It was just to gain the goodwill of the community. And it was facilitated by James Bond. Right? People are making a whole lot of fuss about James holding an umbrella. I ain't interested in an umbrella. I'm interested in the deeper significance, the deeper implications of the introduction of the Mohammeds to Melanie with these hampers. They will argue that it's Melanie and surrounding areas, but guess what? Melanie is ground zero. Surrounding areas, just leave it out there. Morning. Yeah, just leave it by the gate. You brought monitor? Oh. Okay, good. Leave it by the gate. Yes. Where am I? It happens. Yes. You see, sometimes you want to get to a specific target, but to go to it directly would raise a lot of eyebrows, as we see. So you go around. Right? You go around. But you know where you're heading. And that is what is being done right now. That is what James Bond and the Mohammeds are doing right now. So we bring the hampers for goodwill. We say it's to Melanie and surrounding areas, but we're going to distribute it in Melanie. So that where it's ground zero is where most of the beneficiaries are likely to come from, in Melanie, number one. Number two, we're going to distribute it on the play field in Melanie. Right? So the point of focus will be excuse me, the playfield in Melanie. And so the hampers were distributed. The whole hullabaloo about the hamper and umbrella gate and all kind of thing is going on. But what people don't realize, or a lot of people have not paid attention to, I mentioned yesterday, that by information, I received the information that the Mohammeds have an interest in the playfield. And James Bond will facilitate them having a way with the playfield. I was informed later in the day yesterday, as somebody said, Mr. Amsterdam, you're right on point. James had a live at 11 o'clock. And he was showing that the Mohammeds have already started working on the playfield. Right? And he sent me the link, and I went and I saw the link. Some things that stood out to me. Which philanthropy, assuming that the Mohammeds just feel philanthropic, leaves their home at 10:30 in the night to go and check out a ball field? I'll answer me. According to Bond, I'm paraphrasing, Mr. Mohammed left. Mr. Mohammed went to the ground, to that area, 10:30 in the night, to have a look at it. And said, I want this done, that done, the other done. And by yesterday, his workmen were already on the playfield with steel tied. By that time, 11 in the morning, steel was already tied. Loads of sand was already on the way. I think some amount of digging had already started. And you're telling me, all of y'all could tell me, that that is a plan that was put into place within a short period of time. Right? Within that short period of time, let's say 48 to 72 hours, right? Good. And according to James' instruction is I want this place finished by within a week, right? To get the place finished within a week, it means that serious resources will have to be spent. Because people are going to be doing overtime hours, and sometimes you get round the clock work and all of that. I want you all to pay attention to that. Based on James's utterances, you're going to have an international standard basketball court, football field, futsal venue. Those are some of the things which you're going to have on that play field. International standard. Now, many governments are incapable of providing international standard of anything. Even this Guyana government is incapable of providing international standard of anything for its citizens. But here is a private individual providing international standard of several things on this Melanie playfield for the residents of Melanie and, let's say, surrounding areas. I heard the names of some councillors called who James apparently previously had conversations with about clearing the ball field and so on. My good friend, I heard Councillor Tudor, my good friend Petal Telford and so on. I haven't called Petal, but I will have to call Petal because I want to find out what the arrangements are. Because the reality is, millions of dollars, hundreds of millions of dollars based on my estimation will be expended on that ground. Right? Hundreds of millions will be expended on that ground. And after that expenditure, the question is, who becomes the beneficial owners of the ground? Yes, the residents of Melanie and surrounding areas might have access to the ground and the facilities, but the questions I want to ask, will the access be free access? Who will be in control? Who will be managing the affairs of the ground? Who will control the financial affairs of the ground? What is the role of the Neighborhood Democratic Council in the management of the ground? As a matter of fact, currently, what is the role of the Neighborhood Democratic Council in the management of that ground? What is the role of the Neighborhood Democratic Council in this arrangement that we're seeing unfolding before our eyes, where a private individual is developing a community ground? Right? Or private individuals are developing a community ground. Were consultations held with the residents, or consultations were just, or discussions were just held with a few councillors? Did those councillors go to the residents and discuss the proposals? Were the proposals accepted by the residents? Is the Neighborhood Democratic Council aware of these arrangements and these proposals? Those are some of the questions I want to ask. Because, hear me, they say there's no free lunch. There's no free lunch. And I do not see, under the stars, for as long as I live, I can't imagine it. As I like to say, God himself got to come and tell me that that is pure philanthropy on the part of the Mohammeds. I do not see any private individual investing millions of dollars, multiple millions of dollars, into a community ground without looking for payback. What will be the payback? Maybe it's a prime venue. Maybe it's a prime venue for hosting of international shows, for hosting of international football, for hosting of international events, entertainment events. Right? Maybe it's the leeway into looking for political patronage from the residents of the community. Maybe James has bigger political, well, not bigger political intentions. I think James has already declared in some way, shape, or form that he would like to be the president of this country. So maybe James is making his move, along with the Mohammeds, financed by the Mohammeds, to establish a new political party. And he wants to start in Melanie to say, well, hey, I have what it takes to deliver. I've delivered to you an international quality stadium-like facility. I have contacts with the financiers. We have good relationships. Or maybe it's an investment, so when the time comes around, we can say, hey, I was the person who was able to bring this into the community. And I am saying now that my support is with the PPP, and so I think you should support the PPP, and we will get much, much more than this. Right? Those are just some of my thoughts running around. There is no free lunch. What are the intentions behind this investment? But what I know for a fact, whatever the intentions are, unless the residents of Melanie pay keen attention, get involved in this process, be interrogative, unless they interrogate what is happening right now as we speak in Melanie, there will be a lot of bawling and gnashing of teeth in the future. I dare say that. You see, I can tell you without beyond a shadow of a doubt that there are lots of business people who are now setting their eyes on community assets. There are lots of business people setting their eyes on community assets. Mohammeds won't be the first. Last year I mentioned to you a popular car dealer wanting to take over and develop a play field in Enmore. I think it's the Blossom Scheme area. Right? And millions of dollars were offered as bribes to councillors of the Enmore NDC. And a particular regional chairman was in favor. He was a go-in-between, trying to convince councillors that they should support the idea. Right? So it's not the first you are hearing of big business people, the well-to-do, trying to take over community assets. As a matter of fact, that businessman intended to not only fence and develop a playfield, but he wanted to put a swimming pool in the playfield. Right? When I talked there, I remember Pablo Escobar. I think Pablo Escobar was the Medellin cartel guy. But Pablo Escobar owned so many. As a matter of fact, they said he had enough money to pay off the debts of Colombia. The entire international debt of Colombia he could have paid off. He created communities. He owned communities within Colombia. A lot of businessmen are moving in that direction in this country. And so unless people are vigilant, you wake up one morning and find a situation like Gabi had to sing about, excuse me. Right? You remember the situation with Gabi? What Gabi sang about when the residents of that Trinidad couldn't use the beach? Tell Jack that I say in this country that the beach belongs to me. A lot of y'all gonna wake up and realize that y'all ain't got no community center ground. It only names up, but it is owned by the Mohammeds and the bonds of this world. Vigilance is the word for the. That's what I want to encourage you. Be vigilant. Right? There are lots of things to consider. Lots of things to consider in this particular instant. Melanie, community founded by self-help, by the founder leader of the PNC, Fabs Bonham, has some strategic assets. Has some strategic assets that the PPP and their goons would like to put their hands on. James Bond's bar, what you call it, cigar and something, cognac and cigar or whatever, is located on what I think we used to call a Market Street or Plaza Road. Something like that. But that's a market area. Traditionally the market area. Where you had the shopping plaza. The shopping plaza, the site for the shopping plaza is one of the biggest commercial area in Melanie. Over the years, it fell into disrepair under the PPP. I think some efforts were made to resuscitate it, and then I saw it in disrepair again. And so the question I want to ask, is that going to be the next move of the Mohammeds and Bonds? Are they likely to move in on the Melanie Shopping Plaza? I don't know under whose ownership, whose stewardship the Melanie Shopping Plaza lies, but I want to believe it's some co-op of some form. Right? But Melanie, Damashanians, or whatever you call yourself, right? Residents of Elizabeth Hall, Melanie Damashana, y'all be careful. Watch with as many eyes as you can. Moves are afoot, I understand. Moves are afoot. To appropriate the Melanie Shopping Plaza. Right? So if it were a co-op, co-op members, arise and awake. Get your act in order and take control of your property. The Melanie Shopping Plaza. There are also a few other commercial buildings located in Melanie there. I can't name them all right now on their location, but I'm visualizing them. A lot of them might be in a defunct state for some reason or other. But now that you have James Bond bringing the Mohammeds and his friends, his well-to-do friends into your community to suss out property for development, you gotta be careful. That's all I can say. I don't care who vex lose. Right? Our ancestors were enslaved. Not because a white man came and collected them, but because the white man came and influenced our own to hand them over, whether by force or otherwise. They came with trinkets, they came with gifts, and they left with land and our people to enslave. Be careful of the gifts you collect. Be careful of where they come from and who delivers them. It is not everybody that looks like you necessarily have your best interest at heart. Some of us are simply selfish, and we will do anything to achieve our selfish goals and personal aggrandizement. You all be careful. That's all I can say, Melanie. When I started talking about what was happening in BV, came to the point of BV people saying they don't want outsiders in the business. But I'm proud to say that as they said, precious bus pipe, I don't know if you noticed, John Finance pulled out of that land deal with BV because of the public attention it got. And my intention is to keep the eyes of the public on what is happening in Melanie. Because at the end of the day, our ancestors' blood, sweat, and tears was the most important investment in the acquisition of those properties. A lot of these young goons, that's what I call them, young goons, who are appropriating black people's property and inheritances, have no idea of their history. They have no idea of the struggles that the ancestors endured to leave that legacy, regardless of what state it is in right now. And so they just appropriate it or misappropriate it without consideration. But if that were the attitudes of the ancestors, they could not have gotten it to appropriate or misappropriate in this generation. And so we must protect it for the next generation. We must protect it for the next generation. And so, as much as I can be active on these issues, I will remain an activist. Personality doesn't matter to me. No man is an island. But my friend circle is usually very small. And so I don't think there's anything much that anybody can really do. Ostracize me? I'm already ostracized, let's say that. Right? But my satisfaction comes from seeing the oppressed get what is rightfully theirs and get to hold on to what is rightfully theirs. James liked to claim that he has roots in Melanie. He spent some time in Melanie, like he spent some time elsewhere. Right? Spending some time in Melanie doesn't make you the most important arbiter for Melanie. It doesn't give you the transport to Melanie to do as you feel should be done for Melanie. I was born at Georgetown Hospital, but as we like say, I born and grew here. I was bred in Buxton. I lived all of my life, save and except for about 4 in Buxton. But that doesn't give me the transport to Buxton to do as I like. Community assets must be decided upon by the community. And not because you're an elected councillor representing a community, you have a right as an individual to decide on what is best for the community. The community must be consulted on the way forward. And so I'm saying to my good friend Petal Telford and Councillor Tudor, if you are in consult with the residents of Melanie and this issue, this grand development for the playfield, you ought to stop the process and consult the residents. Because when anything goes wrong, and the residents realize they lose their assets because of poor representation, you should be made to feel the brunt of the aggression. I say no more. It's 7 hours 56. I want to stop right there. Open the lines. Let's talk. 6225933. Being an elected councillor, does that give you the right to make decisions on behalf of the community without consulting it? That's one of the questions this morning. Do you believe that the Mohammeds are investing in Melanie out of pure philanthropy? Or there are more, there's more in the martyr than there is in the pestle? Lines remain open. Lines have been open, that is. Call it live. Good morning.
Morning, Kadaki, and do get well soon. Good morning, Diana. What we've got to understand is that James Bond is being cultivated to deliver, as you said, Melanie. And the people, them again, have to understand what's happening. And there's what you got a couple of folks who are deciding what is best for the mass. That's one take. And then we have this saying that when the Europeans came to Africa, they actually came with the Bible, but then they took the land from the Africans. So we've got to be careful of that, and that's my take.
Are you there? Okay, the lines remain open. 6225933 is the number to call. Six 225-933 is the number to call. You tune to the BUXTONIAN morning time. Are there any voice notes? Yes, we have a voice note.
Gaddafi, morning. Happy New Year. And I want to
call all the line.
Thank you for the good work that you're doing to bringing out the ill things that has been going on in this country. Gaddafi, first I must say I have two things to speak about. First I must say James Bond, I must say that he's a dog. Why I'm saying that he's a dog? Because he has used the PNCR. He was always undercover. He was always undercover under the PNC. Those are person who was undermining the AP and UFC. Now, he is with Mr. Mohammed. There's going to develop 25 grounds on the East Coast. Some football, some football, some play fields. What they be doing 25. Okay? And it is a political move. James Bond want to be within the limelight. He want to be where the money is. He go about saying that he can't call on nobody from the AP and UFC for help or for nothing. What help James Bond want? James Bond already got lands and land flip it, get hundreds of millions of dollars. What help he want? He should be helping some of his poor supporters who supported him. Now they're thinking there's going to between James Bond and Mr. Azadine, they're going to form their party. So all of this thing that they're doing is to win the heart of the people on the East Coast so that they could get the votes from the ordinary man. The Guyanese suffering. Guyanese are suffering. We're not talking about East Indian, Amerindian, Portuguese. Guyanese are suffering. They go in, Melanie, with AMPODs. There are a lot of school children who need a help with their books, with tablets for their education. That's why I take my hat off to Mr. DeCinco, Mr. Diablo. Mr. Diablo have spent $1.something million on paying for persons, children, Guyanese children, to sit the exam last year. 30-something children who won't do five subjects, 6 subjects, 7 subjects. It come up to $1.something million. And when they check, all of these children them did well. Who come out with 4 1s, 2 2s. Those are the things that when you have money, you help the poor to edify themselves. So I say kudos to Mr. Diablo. These persons who is drugsmen and who is people who have money, they don't give back nothing towards the community in a way to develop it. You understand? When I watch back, it look like it's like when you can't pay the school teachers them when the government didn't have money. So we gotta watch this thing from a different perspective. James Bond is always a snitch. And I must say that he used the PNC. He was always on the cover. He get everything that he want out of them. You understand me? Because Father Lawrence was entrust him with a lot. He could go to Vallo and say, you need this, you want this to be done, and he get it. You understand me? So Vallo must be holding her head down and saying, if this is the sort of person that she was granting these things to, I'm ashamed of James Bond. James Bond is a dog. Good day, Gaddafi. Enjoy the rest of the day.
Let me say, I don't agree with us referring to each other as dogs, because we find ourselves in the same book like the others who think that we are hungry belly dogs. And so we can disagree and we can identify the weaknesses of each other. But let us not go to that all-time low. Call live, good morning.
Yeah, good morning. I hear you feel it sounding better. Well, I now start with the same feeling, but I got the sore throat. So I got to work on it because they give you advice, so I got to take the advice to myself anyway. Now in 2020 December, there was a picture circulating with the fat guy wife and a black woman with her child kneeling down and like begging this woman for things. And the picture was widely circulated. And we Africans, when we saw a picture like that, it told us one thing that plenty people didn't understand. And as they got away with that picture and they saw the spin-off of the picture, now they're getting our black goons like James Bond and others to come and do the same thing. But only time you think the thing will look so bad because it's your black brother who giving you the handouts. So that is what the Mohammeds did. Use James Bond. And if James Bond is this educated person who he claims to be, but I don't see he as an educated person, because when they punks down on his bar and they close it down, he should have known that I'm a public figure. I am a lawyer, and I should have a battery, an arsenal of words that I would not go down to profanity to explain my hurt for my business being closed at that time. And he was all over the place cussing and going on. And when you see somebody could resort to those low levels as an educated person, you, the other people who are looking from the outside, got to take many steps back to study if you are making the right choice in being in associating with the likes of that man. And I try to tell you that the same thing that this man doing in East Coast there, he that's the about the house slave. The house slave is his family in Denhamsted. And he was trying to get a footing in the management of the Denhamsted Community Center Board. And we made certain that he got no footing, because he did tell himself that once he did get into any part of the management of that center ground, he would have been handing it lock, stock, and barrel to road model. And we made certain, and people got to stand up for the rights. Slaves, we are slaves. When we got out of slavery, we bought lands. And we must take our lands with pride. Don't look to sell. Because when them people get into there, they're going to see the ground and they're going to can't even look in. Because if you look in, they might got to find a charge. Got to go and put on powerful cameras. So as soon as your eye cast in there, you're going to pay a fine. That's how Muslims behave. If you look at the Muslims, you check out a true Muslim. You got the Sunni, you got the Shiites, you got the different thing, and they are the most, I know you might be vexed, the most murderous religious sect the world over. So the people there have got to wake up and smell the daisy by the root and know what position to take in a way going forward. And to Dr. Hines last night, I saw Dr. Hines, but I didn't know it was a current program, and I asked, when you see a thing, please let the date go up, because I was out of it, and I was trying to follow the program. I said, what, this is an old program. Lo and behold, the same thing we were talking about last night came this morning. So I don't know the date could put up, so people could have things. And I wish to get better, and I got to work on myself. My head out to me, I can't talk too long. And I know plenty of me haters, and the show gone glad. All right, later Monday. All right.
Bye-bye. The lines remain open. 6225933 is the number to call. A number voice note. Let's go with this one.
Kadaki, good morning. James Bond's story is clear cut. Now, our ancestors were enslaved because their own was used to capture them for the white man. And what you're seeing here is a replica of slavery. James Bond is working directly for the PPP. He is campaigning. This is the PPP has started a campaign, and James Bond is the main player in order to get the black people votes. James Bond is definitely a crass. Persons need to realize that it's not these people doing we nothing, it's we own people. Because when you got people like James Bond fishing for them, going out in order to make things possible for them at the behest of their own people, it leaves much to be desired. Nobody should be surprised at James Bond attitude. That locking down and police raiding a place is only a sham. That was only a sham. Everything is in place. They put everything in place. Apnu Gaffer sit down and read these people card and plan accordingly. They have to strategize. James Bond is the main player right now in the PPP arena. Thank you.
Lines remain open. 6225933 is the number to call. The people are having their say. I don't have much to say. Voice note.
Good morning, Mr. Kadaki. You got a lot of work on your hands, boss. Because like the people say, the country got to develop. Not only Georgetown. We don't develop. All we want is road and light now. The whole coast. All the way to Barbies. The whole country. And the next thing you have to deal with is migration into Guyana within the next 4 or 5 years. Migration. So we got to get facilities for people. We got to get house for people. We got to get land for build house, for build apartment buildings to house these people. Because the few with in Guyana who can't even never take care of their ancestors' land, can't develop it. And this is a chance for Afro-Guyanese to come home now and develop the ancestors' land. Fair chance. We can't let it for grow bush, boy. We can't let the country for grow bush. You know? Man, the ballpark them around the country all over, the play field them all around the country, the growing bush. Now it's time for give it a haircut and nice it up his problems. What are we going to do? God bless.
6225933 is the number to call. Call, let's talk a thing. More voice notes. This is a voice note morning.
Morning, Mr. Kadaki and viewers. What I'd like to know is that since the PPP took over, I noticed it was the government who was going in this community, especially Mr. Ramson, and look after play fields and so on. So now we gotta ask, then the Mohammeds are working with the government if they could just come in just so and go into somebody play field and said they want to look it after. So therefore, at any other play field, that means the community supposed to be looking it after too. They could say they want to look it after. If just some Mohammed could come and see you looking it after, we thought was the government was doing that. But now normal citizens can do it. So There you go. There's the answer. They're working with the government. No other way.
Yeah, so the number is 6225933. We're talking about all kinds of things happening in Melanie and around the country. And so you can call. And let's talk the thing. Of course, if you have no interest in calling this morning, then I'll be happy to finish the show at 8:30. Because I won't be talking very much more. I need to save my voice. Tomorrow is Saturday, right? Supposed to get some oldies going on tomorrow, so nothing wrong with giving me an early day. Yeah. Yes, friend, I'm okay. I'll survive this. I'm sipping on some coconut water. This is abnormal, I can tell you this. This line doesn't stay quiet. I wonder what's happening. Alright, so if you don't have an interest in calling, let me call it a day. It's Friday. Do have a pleasant rest of your day. You people are aware. You are aware of what we're dealing with. You are aware. You've been pointed to what's happening, and the choice is yours to pay attention or not. Calling live, good morning.
Good morning, Mr. Daki. Good morning for taking my call. Got nobody else in calling, right? I mean, calling for views out.
No, but you just sent me a voice note. You double dipping. Anyhow.
So ain't nobody else calling, so?
All right, that's just a run your mouth.
You just say you're going to take a early morning, so I want to get the right time.
So use the devil. Anyway. You don't want me to get early morning.
Huh?
Go ahead, boss.
I can come and sit around the table with you. Boss, but you know, we got to look at a lot of things, right? You got a very interested program and a look at it and things like that. But, you know, I don't know. I'm looking for answers just like you know. I'm not a politician. I'm not a party man. I'm looking for answers because I got 4 youths. I keep saying this. I got 4 youths.
I listen to you, man.
My ancestors landed from in Alnis and Liverpool and them places there. So I want to know what will be the move there. Because when I come home, I went to Alnis to find out what my grandparents land and things like that. And next thing you know, it all sell out and nobody could give me an answer. And I got the uncle, Marshall Crawford. He was my uncle. And he was the biggest attorney in Alnis and quarantine there. And he couldn't even tell me nothing. He looked at me and tell me, bye, well, me, you know. You see? But we have a country to develop. And like I'm saying, right? I'm saying this, I'm pushing this. We got to get people in the country. 200,000, 300,000 people cannot develop Guyana. Ming said that the other night. We got to get people. And where these people coming from? I had a conversation with my brother. And he said in another couple of years, Guyana can go on to the different people. Just to go America, we left and go to America. This is we chance now. Because America failing we bad. Failing we bad. This is we chance to come back and take care of what we got to take care of. But there's a lot of things. I think there's a lot of tick-tocking, but the 2% and all these things. And then when I do my research, when I do certain research, I see Nigel Hughes talking about these things too. He ain't talking too much about Exxon. When I do my research, when the 2% signed, he was a part of the AFC. And he didn't advise Stratton by who got tried, he can't sign no 2% body, but he couldn't do that because he was on the Exxon board, according to information, and I put them ahead for no black. And then after when he gets skinned up, then he resigned from AFC. So everybody selling me out. And then we got waterfront property in Georgetown. That an Indian man got access to that land, got transport. And according to court documents, and he put them ahead on a black night up. The man ain't pay no money and he get transport. So what we are doing? James Bond is a young man, huh? He's not stupid, he's a lawyer. He wants to see the country nice up with each other. Then yesterday I hearing people abusing the guy because he married an Indian woman. This is madness. This is not politics, it's madness. And nobody talking about the waterfront property. Nobody's not speaking about the waterfront property.
Caller.
Yes.
Let me ask you something.
Yes, sir.
Do you know anything about my wife?
No. But now you
No. Stop.
Okay.
Stop. You don't know anything about my wife.
Right.
Why don't you? Why don't you know anything about my wife?
Because I never hear nobody say anything.
Because when I deal with my politics and my activism, I don't have to tell people I'm married to a dark cat or a crapple. James Bond brought his wife into this discussion. He said he married 2 Indian women. And,
right.
And
but
so
everybody know one break. Everybody know one break his heart.
But I didn't even know. See, the other day I know. You see, I don't mind people business like that. Like I tell y'all, I don't deal with personalities. I deal with issues. Right?
I'm not putting it on you. I'm not putting it on you.
So if people criticize him for his choice, he put it out there. We didn't ask you who he married.
I agree.
For all you know, my wife is a centipede, but you will never know.
I agree with you. I come home and I married one. And when I get sick, she left me and got with 2 children. But what are you going to do? It's like you got to get up and start over. This is the time for Guyana to shine. This is the time for Guyana to shine, and we got to make it shine if we want something for Guyana.
Listen, understand this. And I'm entertaining you a little bit more. Understand this.
Yeah.
This is the time for Guyana to shine. Like you say, 750,000 persons here can't necessarily develop this country at the rate that we would like to see development. But that doesn't mean that Guyana should shine at all costs, by all means necessary, or development should come at all cost to its citizens.
No.
Right?
I agree with you.
But the road we're heading down right now, is one which suggests that because Guyana should shine, the government should do as they like to make Guyana shine. And there are a lot of people who want to see Guyana shine. And because they want to see Guyana shine, they're not prepared to call the government out for its poor choices and poor decisions. I don't care, like I said before, I don't care who forms the government, so long as it's a government that is good for the country. And so far as I'm concerned, PPP has been the worst thing for this country in their previous administration and in their current administration. I have had the opportunity of seeing the Fox Burnham government, the Desmondite government, the Chedi Jagan government, right? The Janet Jagan government, Jagdio government, Samains a couple months, Ramatar. I've had the opportunity of seeing basically all governments in this country. And I am saying that the PPP under Jagdio, Ramatar, and now Efronali represent the worst thing for this country. They have not a bone of patriotism in them, and they are all a set of kleptocrats. All they're concerned about is personal wealth and aggrandizement and throwing crumbs to the people who will support them to keep them in there. And citizens who are really and truly serious about wanting this country shine and wanting development ought not to sit back and accept that. Guyana could be the what? The palace, the kingdom, the whatever you want to call it. It can be that for every single one of its citizens. Every single one of its citizens. But this gang that we have there right now do not represent that hope. Do not represent that hope. And so far as there are people who are supporting them, I have a problem with that.
Right.
The Granger government have had ideas. They've been slow on the implementation of those ideas. It came back to haunt them and all of that. But pound for pound, the Granger government has proven to be a better government. Right? If you were only to sit and examine the policies of the Granger government. Yesterday, you and I part company with you telling me you got $19,000 each of 4 children. The Granger government gave multiples of $19,000, not necessarily in cash, but support. And that is what people need to grow. Support. You need to hold people's hand. Right? I spoke about the SLED program. And some people in the Granger government screw it up. Because the SLED program would have brought great benefits to Guyanese. A lot of people argue that Granger government never did nothing for them and land distribution and so on. Let me tell you, there are 2 schemes being developed neighboring Buxton right now. At the back of Annandale, there is a scheme. At the back of Vigilance, there is a scheme. Both of those schemes were planned and work started under the Granger government for the allocation of house lots. The mistake the Granger government made, as far as I'm concerned, like I said, they dragged their feet. They didn't want to give people the lands undeveloped. They were working to develop it. But in my mind, they could have issued the allocation letters. You know what the PPP did? They coveted those schemes for their own people. Even people who had gotten allocation letters, they disregarded those allocation letters. Disregarded them. And issued new allocation letters to people who they favor. We can't have a Guyana that will shine with that kind of conduct. And people must continue to resist it. And I will continue to resist it.
Good. I agree with you. I agree with you 100%. But they got things in between that we got to work with, okay? The country wide open for Guyanese. That's what the president is saying, for Guyanese and Guyanese fund.
But
I
just pointed out to you, sir, and I will have to end this call because the other is trying to call it. I just pointed out to you. Okay. The president could say what he like, but his actions are totally different. That's a fact.
Right. We got to me say nobody innocent, no politician innocent. None. Politician is like gangsters. The only thing they end up on the street. Selling the dope.
All right, Carla, we gotta go.
Gangsters.
Carla, live. Good morning. Carla, live. Good morning.
Hi, good morning. This guy only wasting time on taking up a lot of space. This guy's a space holder, taking up a lot of space that I can sell with trash.
Carla, get to the point.
What I'm saying is that people are doing things for photo op, right? The cheerful giver never expose himself, never wants nobody to know how much he gave, what he gave it for. You look at all those people who give to charity, right? Michael Jackson, those guys had some of the biggest charity. They are some of the biggest charity givers. And just because of their popularity, people would get a hint that, okay, you got a big charity foundation going on, right? But these guys, they come on the scene and they give people a little handout here and there and so on. We're not looking for handout. This country is supposed to be a hell-rich country, right? And why is it that people got to be getting handouts and so forth? And now they're using another black man, right, who tells himself, okay, I am going to do this regardless of what, regardless of whatever people says, I'm going to do this because he himself looking to gain such popularity. You know, I don't know what's going on with our people. Our people are being paid a fee to destroy our own people. And I can't understand that. I can't understand what James is doing. Now he had a platform on the guy in the press. Now he turns around and calls the people stink press because they expose him, you know, for what he's doing, right? I don't have a problem he holding an umbrella for the Mohammeds. But what I'm saying, that you come with a plan for the people that you yourself, not with the Mohammeds, you yourself want to do, and get with the community and discuss that. Okay, let us pool our resources together and let us develop this community. And the other community would go likewise, or I would advise other communities, right, to do this. I would be advised, I would go around to the other communities and advise them, why Mohammed didn't go to Enterprise and Beirut and all them place and develop there. Let them go there, develop them, you know? That's my contribution. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Colin. Yes, everybody wants development. Ali is talking one thing, but when you look at his actions, his actions speak louder than words. Right? Is development equally or evenly distributed across this country? Are the resources equally or evenly distributed? I know in terms of governance, one of the things which one would expect is that we got 10 regions. And a certain percentage of the population lives in certain regions. Is the budget fashioned in such a way, according to population distribution? Region 4 is one of the biggest, if not the biggest, region in terms of population. Look at the national budget and look at the resources that are allocated to Region 4. Disproportionately low, because the PPP doesn't control Region 4. And so when Ali talking crap and people are singing the same song, you know, we had a lot of regurgitators in this country. They like repeat, they're echo chambers. They don't do necessarily research and so on to form their own conclusions. And so they come repeating things. Call it live, good morning. But them repetition ain't gonna float here.
Brother Kadaki, there's some revelations that passed the invitation to macho, he sent them to Africa black men, gay black men. And Mr. Ban is a very good example that adults must learn, and the other Kyle and say, if you go and good with them, and when they get sick, when you get sick, they go with the children. And that is the reality of the message that the Ramayana Bhakti send the angels in the Maldives and the black rhetoric. Guys, you read Ravidas that they show that they are claim that we are demon followers of an evil king, according to the Ramayana. And any angel, why the angel man attack us about Muhammad, the guy saying Hindu. They have a thing for the internet saying that the angel minister say that you have to be the category that have equal opportunities. And Muslims in Asia are not in the equal category. And you don't want them to go there, and they're not in the equal category, so they can't get because it's a misinterpretation of Article 14 of the Constitution. So, the party has sent out, I'm repeating this thing again, the party has sent a document to the United Nations because of the falsifying UN team from 2019, 2017, around the time, that establishes that the problem of the political potentiality in addition to
Mr. James Bond that he feel that he's so big for his shoes is so big for his foot. Why he and his friends not look into the all the money that shared out from the time the PPP take office to now? Why you make sure everybody on the East Coast get a fair share of it? Why you fight for that, he and his friends? I think the East Coast or the people them will really gonna appreciate that more than the Ampers. Thank you.
Lines remain open. 6225933 is the number to call. We have about 25 minutes or so to go to program time. One viewer is telling me here that the Mohammeds are just the front for Ramson in this project. Call A Live, good morning. Call A Live, good morning.
Good morning, Kadaki. Kadaki is independence. People need independence. They don't need, like you could start training people like how to manage their money and do things like that. But when you keep giving all the time, you're not teaching them the right thing. Because just like how you talk, how you teach your daughter and your son to open an account or to be your son help you to sell. This is what people need to do. Come together, join hands with people like you and other people in prominent people. But sometimes the prominent people them in that for the village, they want for themselves. So when people give them things, they're not putting it out in the right and proper way. Because I know people was coming out to this country and getting tons and tons of stuff from churches, and then next thing you know, they put on show and people have to buy certain things from them and all this kind of nonsense. So people were doing wrong things in the get-go, but everybody sit back and didn't say nothing to them. So right now, everything is going haywire. Because even from the opposition, they need to sit down because everything is going haywire. Since Mr. Norton is in there, action's supposed to be start going on. You're holding them back. They're holding them back because nobody wants to give up that seat. Why? We cannot see that we are our own downfall, man. That's the reason why Priya talked about them the other day. And they are giving people things to talk. I don't understand if they're not sitting down and see their behavior, what they're aspiring down to. Because of how they behave, and that's why people talking about them. That's the reason why the people can behave like that towards them. Because they know that there is no unity together. Because from the time Mr. Norton should have been in there, they all should get together, sit down, and get this shit together. But no, they're not doing it. Then you gotta come out big on public and say, I am not giving up my seat. Please. They need to take care of that. And once they take care of that, you're gonna see what's gonna happen. The country's gonna start flowing properly. Bringing people from other foreign countries to come and help you to sit down and if you can't understand or work with each other to say, well, look, in order for you to move forward, this is what you need. They have people like you, Dr. Hines, and there's so many other people that willing to come there and sit down and work out with things. Oh, you got these big professors there in this country making America big and good. And why economically? Why these people can't come home and try to help you out? Because of what? All of this nonsense that they see going on there with the opposition. Look at it, look at it. You could see actually how they're behaving. Somebody come out and talk something, they're ready to cut down their throat and say, all along they were doing wrong things. They were doing wrong things. But it's only now because of your show and other people's show that open up people's eyes to make people understand that what they were doing is wrong throughout them over your whole entire life. It's only because of you and others, or else we would never know. Not me, but other people they would have never known to clack onto their phone or listening to the radio and all this kind of nonsense. Kadaki,
Thumbs up. Call live, good morning.
Yeah, good morning, Mr. Samson. I've been listening to your program for a long while. But as a black person, I'm a black person, but unfortunately, y'all don't know what really y'all want. Now y'all are criticizing this government, y'all talking about green. There was a better government. Green did it better with the buses for the children go to school. How many buses were in the Green did had for the school children?
How many are there now, caller?
Pardon me?
How many are there now?
How many? No, but how could have been within $19,000 all school children? They had $19,000. But what about the buses? Could those buses same compensate to take those children to school so many thousands return?
If you had to get a bus to go to Georgetown, then you put yourself on the route and you get a bus. There was no bus assigned to Buxton.
There's no, you should know, there's only the many buses and all, they're not efficient for transport people. So how could the buses at Green that provided be efficient for taking these children to school? So there's only a few people who are benefiting from the bus. And next thing, Kidaki, you're talking about those lands that Green has allocated or earmarked to be at the side of Buxton or Annandale or wherever. I am very disappointed. Those lands were built by slaves. If you want 100% representation to represent black people and represent slavery, those lands are the land you should be fighting for. Those lands should have been preserved because you're going to waste the slave labor. And then if we're going to talk about food security, we need land. We need arable land to provide for food, to provide food. So how could you take arable land and they're building houses and then you're going to suffer something like that saying that Granger, earmark those land for houses? I feel very disappointed. You don't know what you want because that is what you should have been representing because the slave labor now has been destroyed. Those flat arable land that has good infrastructure for drainage and irrigation for agriculture, they're being destroyed for housing purposes. We think that should never ever happen. Those lands should always remain for agricultural purposes and they were built by slaves. So the slave labor has been wasted.
I personally, like you disagree with me, I personally disagree with you. Guyana doesn't have a food issue. Guyana doesn't have a food production issue. And so to say to me, to reallocate or repurpose lands